What are you doing, Petrie? What did you eat? You know, when y'all eat weird stuff, that's what makes you puke. Stop it. Howdy, y'all. Random lady here. And have you ever had any crazy neighbors? I've had a few. In fact, I have one right now. But first of all, if you're new to my channel, then welcome. And you're welcome to browse through any of my videos. And if you like what you see, then hey, subscribe, please. And if you hit the little bell, you'll know when I put some videos out there, okay? And if you could let me know what's going on, if you like this video, hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. About my crazy neighbor, well, when we first moved in here, he was always trying to accuse us of hypnotizing him. I would go off to work and he'd say, oh, by the way, I'm not hypnotized. And he hates Christians, and my family is a good Christian family. And he would always tell us while we were leaving for church, I'm not hypnotized, and I don't like Christians, and I don't like Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't like Catholics. And by the way, I'm not hypnotized. So yeah, he would shout out things to us. Now, the interesting part is my husband does have a history with this guy in that they grew up in the same neighborhood together. In fact, just a few houses from each other. They grew up together playing around as kids, and they'd even gone out drinking a few times when they were young men. So they were there for each other. And then he moved away to Texas for years and years and years. And now we've moved back to New York. The guy is not the same guy my husband knew. And I'm not trying to judge him. A lot of the times in my videos, I talk about mental illness and mental health. In fact, I struggle with mental illness myself. He definitely has a mental illness somewhere that he refuses medication. He refuses help. He refuses to admit he has any mental illness. I kind of let him be a reminder to me what I could end up being like if I go untreated. We have a big parking lot in the back of our apartments. And so whenever there's like a cable truck or a school bus or anything like that, he'll be talking and he'd say, oh, they're trying to make me be a school bus driver. They're trying to make me work as a cable worker. And, you know, he'd always be convinced that whatever truck or whatever is out there, they, whoever they are, is trying to make him do that job. And there was a time when they were doing a fundraiser. And so they were saying to show your support for this particular cause, put a green light bulb in your porch light to show that you support whatever the cause was. I don't remember. Well, he thought the whole neighborhood was messing with him by putting these light bulbs in his porch. They're messing around with me because they put these green light bulbs. They just want to mess with me. He really believes this stuff, y'all. So whenever there's a police officer around, he's convinced the police officers are spying on him. You know, when we first moved here, and I talk about how he hates Christians. Now, there is another neighbor down the way who knows this neighbor, and he used to go to our church. He knew us from our church, and that's how Crazy Neighbor found out about what church we go to. Well, Crazy Neighbor calls our pastor and says, I don't appreciate you putting your people here trying to hypnotize me. And the pastor's like, excuse me? He said, who is this? Name names? And so Crazy Neighbor is able to name names because he knows us, or at least my husband, very well from their childhood history. So the pastor pulls us aside one day and he said, I got a phone call from thus and such, and he said this. And we were like, yeah, he's a neighbor we have that's not all there. And the pastor's like, oh, I was pretty sure of that. Well, it turns out Crazy Neighbor calls pastor again. So my pastor, he's so smart, I just love him. He says, well, I'll tell you what, you give me their names again, and you take their names down, and I want you to call the police on them. Tell the police what they're doing. Now, the pastor told us this story, and he said the neighbor was like, what? What? You want me to call the police on them? Now, remember how he feels about the police. They're spying on him. that want to put him in jail. And here this pastor's telling him to call the police and tell the police that we're trying to hypnotize him. He had enough sense to know we're not really trying to hypnotize him. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. One time, my husband was out with the weed whacker, getting the weeds. And my neighbor likes to garden. And he planted mint because he likes mint in his tea. And I guess some of his seeds blew over into our area so that when my husband hit that plant when he was getting rid of the weeds, the smell of mint filled the air. So Crazy Neighbor says, oh, I guess some of my seeds got in your yard. I like mint in my tea. And my husband says, yes, my wife likes mint in her tea too. And he got all mad and he said, we are nothing alike because she is a woman and I'm a man. And my husband was like, we were talking about tea and not about gender. So yeah, that's my neighbor. Have you had any crazy neighbors? Have you been a crazy neighbor? Well, you have a great one. Thank you so much for hearing me out. And I will talk to you later. Bye.